Welcome everyone. Today is March 14th, 2018. This GreenFire program. Welcome everyone to settle in for a golden eternity of an hour for this electronic campfire in which we invite everyone to have a little joy in their journey as we approach the upstart spring and just before St. Patty's Day on Saturday. So happy St. Patty's Day, everyone out there. It's a perfect desire of GreenFire to live in ire in the land of the fairy and be merry dancing with the fairies all the live long day. So all the wannabes and all the everybody else out there who has green fire in their heart and green desire of the little ones, the leprechauns, and that wildfire and the wolf's eyes. This says, arise, amore rabia, love and rage, but mostly celebrate today and joy. That's from a long winter we're coming through. So this particular program is dedicated to all of you around the yew tree of Christmas, but now around the oak tree of spring and the willow as well. Where the willow is a great tree, and it's part of our lives as well. So this is the beginning of the journey, and this joy of the journey comes in a three-part harmony today. We're still going to deal with some of the winter issues, talk about winter song a little bit, but also a piece that I just wrote up at New Mallory Abbey based on my experience with the Trappist monks and the land and the trees and the region of ecosystem of New Mallory up there. This will be dedicated to them as well as the experience there that they bring and enrich all of our lives. So in celebration of New Mallory Abbey, which is an Irish monks who came to America from a monastery that was hewn out of the side of a mountain in Ireland. And so this is direct connection to the old sod, the old country, through County Kerry and Cork and all of the Emerald Isle. So may there be an Emerald Isle and a Third Eye Emerald Isle smile all around this electronic campfire of GreenFire. And remember, sparks fly upward into the starry night. And we're at the place within a few days of when there will be equal sunlight and equal darkness. Sunlight and equal evening. Night. And all of these elements come together as the turning of the wheel is certainly in spin, as today is 50-some degrees after having been cold, and it's certainly windy. The winds of March came in like the lion, and we're still with us. So it's a cleansing agent as well, and may they wash our spirits clean. This will be dedicated also to the Americas, all of the Americas. The North America is known as Turtle Island, and Latin America, Central America, and South America known as Latin America as well. The entire Americas are called Americua, appropriately called Land of the Winds. And this is pre-Columbian name. It was given its name by the Mayans, Americua. So look that up. Think about that. It's good harmony. This is a good harmony day. One could call it a gold star day. So if you get a gold star today and enjoy the journey with us. So as I mentioned, I was up at New Mallory and I composed a piece, wrote a piece, not only about that, but about the recent announcement that the Pope in the Vatican made about Archbishop Romero, I believe it's Monsignor Romero, but Bishop Romero, who was killed tragically, slaughtered, gunned down at the altar while saying Mass by death squads supported by the United States, Reagan, Bush, dark lords, through the Contras and through the death squads that our military was, that our Pentagon and military were funding through Reagan and Bush and all the other ones, Oliver North and who knows. You can run down the list if you want to look them up. They're all war criminals. But the Pope announced this Archbishop Romero was killed by the death squads and that were funded by Reagan and Bush and that regime, that reign of terror that lived through the 80s in D.C. and that reign of terror that poured down through the 80s all across this planet, but especially in Central America, where several 100,000 people were killed, butchered, massacred by these death squad and these Contras, funded and supplied by Reagan and Bush in the White House itself. El Norte, as it is called. So the Pope announced that Bishop Romero was made a saint. He was a martyr who was killed in 1980 at the altar about 38 years ago while saying Mass. First part of the Mass, he got up and gave a sermon directed directly at the El Salvadorian army, in which he told the army to lay down their guns. It was immoral against God. It was a crime against God to kill their own people in these death squads. And these armies, D'Abuson and others, were part of those death squads, and they were killing their own people, butchering, massacring them, to repress them from what was known as the Liberation Theology movement, which was a freedom movement of independence and throughout and sovereignty throughout Central America, especially in El Salvador and Guatemala and Nicaragua. And the Liberation Theology said that compañeros, they set up base communities, which are like sustainable communities, and they had compañeros, which were basically the little people, but it's a whole economic system for the rising up of the Guatemala Quichmayans and the native indigenous people, as well as all the other peasants and little people, the poor people of Central America, of whom 98% were in that category. Only the wealthy elite, including the Catholic hierarchy and the military death squads and the dictators that ran those countries, were not part of that description. And they were just carte blanche, killing people, kidnapping them, taking them out, slaughtering them. But before that, they were massacring, torturing, and massacring them in the most brutal, graphic, obscene ways, the descriptions of which you don't want to hear. Just know that was a crime against, and it was a nightmare of God. And finally, this Pope recognized that, and as I mentioned, Archbishop Romero spoke at the sermon on that Sunday morning and told the entire army of El Salvador to lay down your arms and go home. It was unjust and immoral to be part of that army that was killing their own people. Literally civil war and the dictators' war against the people. Like I said, it was a reign of terror. And within 20 minutes of giving that sermon, directly confronting the military-industrial complex of the power elite, of the butchers, of the dictatorships of those countries, fueled by Reagan and Bush and sundry others, Negroponte and you name them, John Hughes, on and on and on. So he went back to saying Mass at the altar, And within 20 minutes of giving that sermon, masked gunmen broke into the church and killed him, shot him and killed him right there, right at the altar. He was brutally killed while saying Mass, which is a shock to anyone who goes to church or who honors people who go to church. And to do that in the name of the American people means that George Bush Sr., Ronald Reagan, Negroponte, all those people in the Reagan administration, 80, 84, 88, on up through Bush's through 92, all have blood on their hands. They have blood dripping from their fingers from the massacres and genocide in Central America. And the Pope announcing that Archbishop Romero is now a saint lifts up the entire Central American population. It's almost like an enlightenment rod announcement of liberation. And so Archbishop Romero was like the Martin Luther King of his people and his time and his place. And he was the voice of peace and human rights for all of the indigenous, all the people of Central America. And so to announce that he is now becoming a saint is one of the great days, not only of this time, but as you will see as I unfold this composition that I wrote in honor of Archbishop Romero, in the last 500 years since the conquest began in 1492. That's the best way I can say it. Let's unfold it as I wrote it, and then we'll unpack it a second time. But this first part has to do with the awakening of spring, and then there's a syncretistic interbeing weaving of the awakening of spring and the beauty and the joy after a long winter sojourn, and into this announcement by the Pope of Archbishop Romero becoming a saint. And as you see, we begin with spring, and then there's three cultural threads running through this. And we'll cover them in detail sometime in a little bit here. We're composting this. We'll compost this, we'll deepen into the soil of it. So in composting it, we first goes in our head, and then it goes in our heart. And in the composting of this, there's three cultural elements. One is, like I said, Maracua, Turtle Island is the name for North America. That's Native American. And that's used across North America. The Native Americans call this continent Turtle Island. It also, there's a component that's part of a bioregional vision, which is not so anthropocentric, it's more ecocentric, where ecology is the center of the focus and not the human being. It's not anthropocentric, it's ecocentric, or you could call it biocentric vision, where everyone has a place on the circle and a voice and a council. And the bioregional vision says the bioregional Congress is where the legislature is, nature is the legislature. And the law of the bioregional Congress is LAW, land, air, and water. And that will be further explicated as we compost this detritus here. And the third element itself is the social liberation theology wing of the Catholic Church, becoming activated with this announcement of the Pope Francis in the Vatican that Archbishop Romero will now become a saint. And the weaving of these three threads become, on the celebration of St. Patrick's Day, a tri-woven Celtic knot. Okay, so that's a little bit of the composting. Here we go. And we turn to this day. May this be a very good day. For we've waited so long to get here. Little by little, the crocus is peeking through in a proof beyond axioms and theorems and geometry and all that abstract mathematics. Deep beneath the detritus, awakening spring is breaking through. And the little crocus are peeking through little by little. It energizes all of us by the sun and the green. This is heard in winter's last sonata. As old friends bring out their Chinese calendars and chase away the Lunar New Year, not by fear, but by preparation, then by celebration, turning to something more Celtic, something more clear. It's all around us. It's all around us. This something more clear. It's in the air. The harmonic energy swirls are dancing as fairies in midair, and no one is around. Everyone's left town for spring break. But the real break is the ice breakup out on the reservoir. The ice breakup round the bend on the Red Cedar River, Musquawawa, just before the roller dam out on the old river road. And the ice breakup down a lonely, secluded gravel road way up in the driftless on New Mallory Creek. Come with me now, dear friend. Come with me now, dear friend. Come with me now, dear friend. Listen in. Listen in. You can't hear it at first. You can't hear it at first. But when we really listen in, and when we let our ears echo up the hollow for a while, when we really listen in, and when we let our ears echo up the hollow for a while, we listen to a small swallow flickering in the woods, and we put our ear close to ground. We begin to hear the sound, the distinct, clear, serene crystal sound burbling up from the meadow. And here we begin to hear the muse of the sonnet so clear. It's the little bright ring of awakening. It's spring, not sprung full form out of Zeus's forehead. It's little tricklings of sound, little glimmerings of bubbles. It's little swift currents running over little stones as islands in the stream. This is musical starstream of none such stuff and such. From the great upper Midwestern ice breakup of flotsam and jetsam, of logs and twigs and things, netting us in wonder, awakening us from our slumber. And our little magical child feet are dazzled in wonder, with our ear ever so close to the ground, to soil, to earth's soul, ever so close to this great awakening of creation. Up on the higher ground of Mallory Creek, it's all stiff, thick, blue-gray color, ice-bound thick. But here, lower down, on the little side of the creek, unmistakable burblings begin to rumble their delicious musical sounds and songs in our ears. Even from a block away, we can hear, and the message is clear. Spring's a-comin'. Spring's a-comin' in this play, in this magical, Iliadic way, burbling little New Mallory Creek, in singing her song in a magical way. And this baptism of life is its own resurrection, even during Lent. And the magical play of this sonic overture is an unmistakable signature that things have changed. Way out here, out of sound's range, something deep, something unfathomable, something making the foundations change. Yes, so, in this winter interlude fabric, it's the burbling song of St. Patrick, come alive again. This is the mist-filled path, and we are all empaths on this rebirthing terrain. And up in the monastery, a new word is heard, which totally affects our true American home. The Pope has announced Monsignor Romero is a saint. This ain't for the faint, the yellow-hearted, the cowardly. This affects all of Turtle Island, North America. Now walk with me for a while here. Turtle Island is the North American continent. It is Native American. The head of Turtle Island is Alaska. Its backbone is the Rocky Mountains. Its tail is Central America. Turtle Island hasn't been free since the conquest beginning in 1492. Among native elders, it's been said Turtle Island cannot and couldn't be free until the turtle swims. And in order to do that, Central America had to be free. In order for Central America to be free, all human rights abuses of the Contras and the death squads and the massacres had to be addressed, and justice meted out in amore rabia, in unconditional love, with ruthless compassion, agape, amor, eros, and rabia, unconditional love, love, erotic love, and rage. In declaring Monsignor Romero a saint, these human rights, the human rights of the massacres of El Salvador, Guatemala, Honduras, Nicaragua, Panama, and others of Central America begin to be addressed. Another component is the bioregional vision for the Turtle Island Congress. For all of Turtle Island, where nature is legislature, there are no geopolitical mind maps, no countries here, no governments are on the bioregional Congress. It's not run by governments or geopolitical minds of man. This is where nature's legislature, where trees have standing, where we have all species projects, and all members of all the species are seated at the council in the council circle. This is where nature's legislature and the council of all beings is in Congress, is in session. And every day the council of all beings is in session, where nature is legislature. This is where the ecosystem is the law. Land, air, and water. Watersheds, airsheds, and soil. When the tail of the turtle is free, the turtle can begin to swim. When the turtle can swim, all of Turtle Island is free. After that, all the Americas, called Americua, land of the winds, can become free. This has lain dormant in our 500-year memory, of conquest and all of that baggage. Until now, this has laid dormant. Something sacred in this upstart spring. The Pope's message doth bring the mists of Americua, much like the mists of Avalon. The mists of Americua are beginning to emerge this spring after a 500-year sleep. The turtle is beginning its awakening, beginning to wiggle its tail in the walk womb of things. And Terrapin Station, brightly lit in the luminescent stars, is now in thrice Hermes Trismegistes, thrice Hermes Trismegistes, thrice Hermes Trismegistes, a three-part harmony of Harmonia Mundi, and it's beginning to be felt and to be birthed on earth. And the restoration of mirth on earth has begun. Raising the Jed through the Grateful Dead and the Dark Knight Jedi, starry Jedi, are in delight. This is a great soul stride, dear friend. This is the greatest soul stride in the Americas in the last 500 years, the announcement of the sainthood of Monsignor Romero. And Monsignor Romero and those hundreds of thousands that were killed at the hands of the U.S. military, the U.S. Pentagon, the U.S. Congress, all of those with the announcement of Archbishop Romero as a saint are saying, Presente, Presente, Presente. This is a great soul stride, dear friend. This is a great, great soul stride. For when Central America is free, the turtle is free, and Turtle Island can become free again, and then when the turtle can swim. So this is a great soul stride day, dear friend. Welcome home. Welcome home, Turtle Island. Hoka hey. So that's a piece I wrote, inspired by a long, ambling, gentle walk last Friday morning. That would be March 9th at New Mallory Abbey in the Driftless in northeast Iowa. One of the great blessings of our time and place on this planet, beloved water planet Earth. A true great blessing, a national heritage, a national heirloom. Way beyond that. It's a place you can get your soul washed and become free, just like Turtle Island can become free. So they come together there. And we will revisit this in a little bit. We have composted it fairly well. We may compost it some more. But in order to have rich soil, you got to have compost. And so we've put in some rich soil for early mid-March here, for the upstart coming spring. And in celebration, I will share with you two other pieces that I wrote while I was at New Mallory. One was on All Souls Day, last November 1st, All Saints Day. And myself and about 10 men from Marion went on a pilgrimage, much like Chaucer's Canterbury Tales, up to New Mallory for a couple days. A lot of these men have never been up there before. And it came to me that being that most of them were married, they seemed to be fairly happy. And they were from Marion. I called them the Merry Married Men of Marion, ambling to New Mallory Abbey. So this is dedicated to our time at New Mallory, called the Merry Married Men of Marion. And oak is a big, oak trees and anything oak is really big up at New Mallory. A lot of their handmade furniture is made with oak grown in the forest that they lovingly caretake. Brother Placid and many of the monks. They've been there 169 years, since 1849, in continuous prayer for the upper Midwest, for Iowa, for America. The monks have been in prayer for all of us. And oak. So oaks have their own language, their own agams. And there is a language and an alphabet for trees, and they are called agams. And this in this way, the oaks speak. So this is oak speak. Oak speak, and the whole tree hums. We become reflecting pools of His wonder, the divine Master's wonder. Genuflecting or not, we are living oak memorare, testaments of His truth, the living tree of the living Word. This is a tectonic shift in our being, a serration from the past, a serata of solstice brothers, living bread in the breath of this instance, a sutra of living consciousness and living consciously upon the breath of the land, upon the breath of the heartland, upon the breath of God. And these are feathers on the breath of God, and the breath of the bandwidth of the merry married men of Marian. This nuos, this soul atmosphere, this noosphere is in our own breath. Enthusiasmos is within the nuos of our own breath, the noosphere, the soul sphere. And it's reflected in dendritic overtures and a sonata deeper than our knowing. In living detritus of autumn holy oak, leaves at our feet, leaving little trails and contrails in our soul. This beauty way asymmetry of tapestry is lovingly sewn and woven into our inner tapestry. This All Saints' Day, a loving tunic is worn in the living of the way. Ah, wayfarer, you have traveled deep and well today. To cross the shores of this living concourse, conversion experience, happy are those who are called to this supper. Ah, communion, All Saints' Day, Numelere, Amen. And this is the second day of our pilgrimage which was just a little after the Summer of Love. This is 2017, November 2nd. And All Saints' Day, and then next day was All Souls' Day. November 1st, Numelere Abbey, 2017. The Merry Married Men of Marian, making their way to Numelere Abbey. There was a conversion experience through convergence. A concrescence wave washed us all the way. So that's a little bit on extension of the poetry that has emerged from Numelere, as well as a further piece written just a little bit later. This was also written there. New Jerusalem in the new land, each one a diadem of the divinized mind, coming into the country from Alaska, a little Diomede island unto itself, Ganzandere being reified to the holy other, in this inner courtyard of Numelere, holy the firm, this journey of joy, this holy All Souls morning. A purgatory of fog surrounds the monastery in this shroud of grieving, of mourning, of the loss of one of the monks. And this All Souls' Day, and there's an atonement. The monastery is purgatory, and here is All Souls' Day every day. Holy the firm in the mandorla alcove of the interior castle, the windows of Viriditas, enfolded in prayer, clasp skyward, great souls emerged, visited, inhabited here. Tat Vamasi, thou art that, inhabits laced with grace. O Lord Jesus, grant me the grace to know, to see, to feel how beautiful I truly am. Brother Gus walks the interiors of this castle. In his informed night chant, a Gregorian and starry night, hymn of the universe, in divinized stillness of air and stillness of mind, close encounters of the truly loving kind live here. Witness in their being to the word, holy the firm. This is a loving tribute to Brother Gus, who's one of the great souls of New Melleray.